Hello, welcome back, and welcome if you are new. My name is Jessica Abella. I am a tax advisor and I practice in the greater Seattle area. Today we are going to be talking about several of the most common IRS penalties that you may run into and some of the ways to get some of those abated or forgiven. So let's start with the failure to file penalty. Your personal tax return, for example, is due April 15th. If you don't file an extension, but you file your tax return in June, you could have a failure to file penalty assessed against your return. Similarly, if you do file an extension, which gives you until October 15th, but you don't actually file the tax return until the following January, again, this failure to file penalty could be incurred and added to your tax bill. If you didn't owe anything on the tax return, the IRS owed you, you had a refund, there is no penalty. This penalty is based on the amount of tax due. However, if you did owe, this penalty is 5% of the tax per month that this return is late, up to 25% of the tax due. So for an example, if you had a tax return with a $1,000 balance due, the maximum penalty would be $250. If it is filed over 60 days late, there is a minimum penalty of $485 or 100% of the tax due if that is less. Setting aside personal returns for a moment, let's talk about S corporation and partnership returns because they are a little bit different in that they don't pay tax on their own. They pass their income through to their shareholders. So you would think that if they were filed late, there would be no penalty, and you would be wrong. Unfortunately, because these entities do pass their income through to their shareholders, to their partners, it's extra important that these returns be filed on time so that the owners can file their personal tax returns on time. And so the penalty for these returns being filed late is currently $220 per shareholder or partner per month that the return is late for a maximum of 12 months. This adds up very, very quickly, especially if you have more than one owner of this business. So be aware of that. That $220 per person per month is indexed for inflation, so it does go up every year. So the next penalty to talk about is the failure to pay penalty. So you filed the tax return, but you had a balance due and you didn't pay it by April 15th. That failure to pay penalty is a penalty of 0.5% of the unpaid tax per month or part of a month that it's late, again up to the same 25% maximum. Now this is a combined maximum, so if you filed late and paid late, that maximum combined penalty is going to be that 25%. The penalty does go down to 0.25% if you have an installment agreement. So it's really important if you owe the IRS and can't pay it to get that installment agreement in place. The penalty increases to 1% per month if the IRS has gotten all the way through their collection process, all the way to an intent to levy assets. That shouldn't happen if you had a balance due and you got into a payment plan with them. As long as you're in a payment plan, you're fine. But if you ignore their letters and they get to the intent to levy stage, that penalty is going to increase. Interest is also tacked on. The current interest rate is about 8% annually. So let's talk about a couple of ways that perhaps these penalties could be abated or forgiven. The first one is first-time abatement. So if you have not filed late, have not paid late in the last 3 years, you've got good history, but you had a bad year, something happened, or even if nothing happened, you just didn't file, this first-time abatement is an option for you. It just takes a phone call to the IRS. You just call and ask for first-time abatement of whichever penalty you would like abated, the failure to pay or the failure to file penalty. You can look up on your transcript what penalties have been assessed on irs.gov before you call. It can be challenging to get through to them, but it's still going to be faster to get this penalty abatement by phone than by mail. And if the agent that you are speaking to doesn't grant you the penalty abatement, even though you know that you have filed on time, paid on time in the past, and you know that you qualify, hang up and call again. Sometimes a different agent gives you a different answer, but it's truly an option. You are allowed to do this, and they are allowed to do that for you by phone. In this, not only do you have to have always filed everything in the past 3 years, you also have to have anything current filed or appropriately extended, and all the tax due either has been paid or you're in an installment agreement to have that tax paid. So that's an option. That's the easiest option. There is an option for reasonable cause abatement. So with reasonable cause, you do have to prepare a written statement. You submit it with Form 843 to the IRS for their consideration by mail. Reasonable cause can kick in if there is a death, serious illness, a disaster, something outside of your control, bad advice that you relied on in good faith. So that statement really needs to show that you acted responsibly, you did everything that you could to file on time or to pay on time, but there was this extenuating circumstance that you are requesting abatement for. One other abatement option to know about, if you have a partnership, if there are less than 10 partners in this partnership, it may be possible to use an exception to the penalty to get it waived, as long as all of the partners reported their share of the income on their personal tax returns on time. So this really can only be helpful if the personal returns were filed either by April 15th or by October 15th if they were appropriately extended. But if everything was filed on time and somehow the partnership didn't get filed on time, this may be an option for you. So to recap, file on time, file extensions if you need to, but be sure to file on time. That failure to file penalty adds up really quickly. Set up a payment plan with the IRS if needed to keep the penalties as low as possible, and take advantage of opportunities to reduce or remove penalties if you can. Any questions? Anything that I went through too quickly or that were unclear? Any ideas for future videos? I would love that. Feel free to leave comments down below. Like the video if it was helpful. Feel free to share it with others and to subscribe if you like content like this. I try to answer frequently asked questions about federal tax and Washington state and business questions as well. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next week.